YouTubers, Mike Martins here, Mike Martins channel. Thanks for joining me for another real estate discussion talk. Turnover in Australia's housing market hits another multi-decade low. Woo! Man, I've been predicting this for years. I've been predicting this for many years now. Why? Because all the government propping, all the interest-only mortgages, purposely deflating mortgages for affordability. How long was this party going to go on for? With all these first-time buyer loans and all this bull crap that was stuck into the market to keep it going. Build up supply and demand. Let's blame supply and demand. Blame supply and demand. They've been blaming supply and demand for the last 4.5 years for these housing prices. But Sydney's got, 80,000 empty homes owned by foreign ownership. Anyways, let's get down to this. Turnover in Australia's housing market hits another multi-decade low. There's growing glut of Australian homes currently up for sale. So there's an oversupply on the market. I've been talking about oversupply for years now. I've been saying there's going to be an oversupply. There's going to be glut. There's going to be a huge oversupply on the market with properties. It's not a supply and demand issue. So where was that garbage they've been stuffing down our throats about supply versus demand, Mike? It's supply and demand. You don't know logic. Well, where are these people now that used to comment on my channel? That largely reflects reduced buyer demand despite steep declines in new listings. Westpac calculates that the national housing turnover fell to the lowest since 1987 in the final 3 months of 2018. So we're looking at Q4 of 2018, right? And people are saying, well, Mike, it's winter. No, not in the southern hemisphere. They're in the middle of summer. What's going on? What happened to these great Sydney spring sales and all the people out there, all these, auctions? Where are these? What's going on? With new housing financing weakening and pessimists towards the outlook of prices heightened, listing levels look set to remain elevated for some time. Kind of like Toronto and Vancouver, where listings are woo, and then the sales are roar. This should be inverting if it was a supply and demand issue, right? No, maybe not. With prices falling in many parts of the country, Australia homeowners are unsurprisingly reluctant to list their properties for sale given current market conditions. According to CoreLogic, new property listings defined as those properties that have not been put up for sale in the past 6 months slumped to 24,930 over the past 4 weeks, down a hefty 80.8% from the level seen just 12 months ago. The declines in Sydney, Melbourne, those capitals where home prices fell the fastest in 2008 were particularly acute, falling 25.3% and 24.2% from a year earlier. So guys, now, I've been talking about housing for many years now. Now I'm going to start talking about also the blue collar and white collar workers that left Sydney and Melbourne to find more affordable housing or finding a place to live and raise a family. Who's going to actually pay and service the city's debts? You're going to hear it here first. You get your provincial tax from your province. You get your federal tax. You're going to have a city tax in Australia. You're going to have a Sydney proper tax. Inside Sydney, you're going to have its own tax. Sales tax, duties tax, 3 or 2% added on. Same thing in Melbourne. You're going to have a city tax in those big cities to help fund the infrastructure of those cities, because the people that actually contributed to the infrastructure are no longer there. They're gone. The people that actually pay the taxes are gone. They're leaving in droves. Droves. The declines in Sydney and Melbourne, those capitals, we got this falling 25.3%, 24.2% from a year earlier. We covered that already. However, despite the steep reduction in new listings in Australia's largest and most expensive cities, total properties on the market continue to swell, lifting 118,969 across the capitals over the past 4 weeks, up 9.1% from the same period a year ago. What happened to the supply and demand? That indicates that while the supply of listings is now starting to fall, properties are still hitting the market faster than what they are selling. The chart from Westpac Bank shows the visual form. Here you go. So there it is here. These are new sales to listings ratio. And then here is your total listings. So sorry guys, I'm looking through the other side of there's your total listings, and here's your ratio to sales to new listings. So it's not looking good. It's same thing in Toronto, same thing in Vancouver, same thing in London. Well, London's horrible. Same thing in San Francisco right now is experiencing Seattle. I've been covering Seattle for so long now. Ever since the foreign buyer tax went into Vancouver and everybody went to Toronto and the other foreign investors went down to Seattle, they blew up those markets with housing prices leaving those cities into empty shells and causing a mass exodus of those cities. The left-hand pane shows the ratio of listings to property sales. A reading of less than 1 indicates the new supply of outstripping the sales, of course. It's always going to be like that now going forward, by the way. With the ratio currently sitting just above 0.8, the level of unsold homes sitting on the market continues to increase, lifting to around 6 months' worth of supply at the current place of sales, as seen in the right-hand pane of the chart. Listings highlighted difficult selling conditions, says Westpac. Whatever happened to the motivated sellers? According to calculations from the bank, national housing turnover plunged in the December quarter last year, with just 3.6% of dwelling stocks changing hands, the lowest proportion since 1987. The decline largely reflects the impact of falling home prices, not only deterring owners from listings, but also discouraging potential buyers given the growing expectation that prices will continue to fall. After initially being driven by tighter lending standards and reduced demand from local and offshore investors, housing credit growth has slowed noticeably in the recent months, largely reflecting a drop in the demand for the housing finance, particularly among investors. Given credit growth plays a key role in the property price movements, ongoing weakness in demand could see homes fall even further, a scenario that could see turnover fall even lower than listing levels remain at the elevated levels. I've been talking about supply and demand issues for the last 4 years in Australia, Toronto, London, and I still remember that article I read about the Mayor Khan of London. Build! Take up our green space and build! Take our alleyways and build up! We need more for the supply and demand issue. It's not a supply and demand issue. It never was a supply and demand issue. It never was. It was always an affordability issue. And now, securing the financing is going to be a lot tougher. Now, with the Royal Commission sniffing around the banks and showing, I think public confidence in banking in Australia is less than 5%. Let me know what you guys think. Guys, if you want to donate to the channel, share one of my videos. That's all I'm asking. Share one of my videos. Find something on my channel that you like. Share it. Get me out there. Let's get this thing rolling. Now that the great Australian blame game is at hand, we're going to see where things are going to head. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.